So transconductance, so in the last lecture, whatever we have derived, it is we have derived the propagation delay times of TOPY LH, and we have concluded this TOPY LH, it is inversely proportional to the transconductance parameter of N MOSFET. Similarly, the propagation delay times of low to high means rise time, it is depend on the inversely proportional to the transconductance parameter of P MOSFET. Now we know the Kn, it is nothing but the mu n COX into W upon L of N MOSFET, right? So mu n and COX is not a design parameter. So to vary the Kn, we have to vary the W upon L ratio, and L normally it is a fixed and it is equal to technology. Now what is meant by technology? Technology means some chip fabricated using 180 nanometer technology, some chip fabricated using 90 nanometer technology, some chips fabricated using 65 nanometer technology, 45 nanometer technology, 22 nanometer technology, and nowadays running the 7 nanometer technology using the FinFET technology, right? MOSFET is not suitable at a 7 nanometer technology. So what this figure indicate? So this figure indicate 180 nanometer means it is a single transistor channel length, minimum channel length of a transistor. So you know the channel length. So channel length it is nothing but length between the two diffusion region. It is length between the n plus and n plus, right? So this length, it is normally fixed, and it is depends on the which it is fabricated using which technology, right? So suppose it is 180 nanometer, then it is near about the 180 nanometer. So this length is 180 nanometer, and the width of the MOSFET, that is the width of the channel, right? So width of the MOSFET, it decides the width of the channel. So this W upon L, this is the length, and this is the width of the channel, and this is the channel, whatever the channel forms between the n plus 2n plus. So total conductivity depends on the channel characteristics, right? So different parameter which affect the channel conductivity are the important parameters in a designing, right? So total the drain current, what we are doing in a N MOSFET or in P MOSFET, just we are controlling the channel conductivity, nothing else. By controlling the channel conductivity, we can convert any signal to any another forms, or any signal we can amplify it, or we can use as a switch. Everything it is possible just by the controlling the conductivity of the channel, and that can be controlled by the different parameters, like a parameter of gate to source voltage, parameter of the channel parameters, different parameters of the channel, right? So transconductance is one of the parameter of the channel, right? That have the property that can control the conductivity of the channel. So Kn can define as mu n into COX into W upon L of N MOSFET. So the propagation delay times of high to low, it it can be achieved. It is the inversely proportional to the W upon L ratio of the N MOSFETs, right? So normally L is fixed, so we can adjust the TOPY HL. It is the inversely proportional to the W upon 1 upon Wn, where the 1 upon Wn, it is the width of a N MOSFET, right? Similarly, the propagation delay times of low to high, it is inversely proportional to the 1 upon Wp. So in short, the propagation delay times, propagation delay times, it is inversely proportional to the width of a channel, right? So if you want to increase or decrease propagation delay times of high to low, we have to adjust the N MOSFET width, or to set the propagation delay times of low to high, we have to adjust a P MOSFET width that can be achieved the desired the propagation delay times. So these things we already have derived in last lectures, and this is the conclusion. That now as we increase propagation delay times, to reduce the propagation delay times, right? So let's say y-axis is the propagation delay and x-axis is the W width. Copy LH. So as we increase the W upon L propagation delay times, it is a decrease, and it's have some optimum point. Up to that it will decrease. It cannot goes beyond that. It cannot goes have a zero propagation delay times because it's not a superconducting material. So it's have some limitation. It goes up to some minimum value, right? So this graph indicate the as we increase the W upon L, W of the N MOSFET, the propagation delay times it is a decrease. Now and it is proportionally, right? Suppose by increasing the W and which will increase the ultimately the area, right? So if we see what is the effect on area requirements of W upon L. So as we increase the W upon N, it is increase the area requirements. It increase the area requirements of the chip. So we have to find out what is the optimum point where we'll get the product of time and area minimum, right? So we have to find out a product at which W upon which N MOSFET width will get the area multiplied by delay have an optimum point. So initially it is an exponentially decreasing. So initially this product as we increase W upon L, this product will decrease. And afterward here it is no major change in propagation delay times. Once we reach the optimum value of W N, then it is increasing the area. So as we increase the W upon L, then after area start increasing, right? So we have to find out a point at which will get the minimum area into delay product. So this is the optimum value of MOSFET which optimize the both the parameter. One is the area, another is the delay, right? Similarly for the P MOSFET for the propagation delay times of a low to high. Now as we seen here, the MOSFET have an inherent delay, right? We cannot make it tends to a zero delay. So we can utilize the delay for the stable behavior of any multi-vibrator. So how to create the stable multi-vibrator from this delay? It is called a ring oscillator circuit. This is called a ring oscillator right? So each and every digital circuit requires some clock. Each and every digital circuit, any sequential digital circuit required the clock. So either we can provide the clock. This is some any chip which is have a digital design. It's required a clock signal, right? So either we have to give this clock signal by generating externally, and then this signal we have to give to the chip. This is one of the way, right? So externally we are generating using the crystal oscillator. We are connecting the crystal circuit parallel to capacitor which generate the pulses, and that pulse we give to the chip as a clock signals. So this is called an external oscillator circuitry. And the disadvantage of external oscillator circuitry is it required the one extra circuit other than the chip for the oscillation purpose, right? So we require one extra circuitry which take the more area on a motherboard which have the two part. One is the chip and another is the clock generator circuit based on the crystal. So it take the more area on a crystal or more area on the motherboard or any PCB. Another is we can generate the clock internally. Internal clock generator circuit. Internal clock generator circuit. Internal clock generator circuit, right? So internal clock generator circuit, it is nothing but the ring oscillator. ring oscillator. So how we can utilize the delay to make a stable multivibrator? A stable multivibrator nothing but the oscillator circuit. It do not have any stable state, right? So it is work as an oscillator. So if we connect the port number of inverter, like say this inverter has some propagation delay times of tau p HL and tau p LH. Inverter 1, let me give the output of inverter 1 to the input of inverter 2, and output of inverter 2, let give the input of inverter 3, and if you connect back to the feedback to the again the input of first inverter, right? So this types of, if you connect the odd number of inverter in a ring fashion, it will work as an stable multivibrator. It will work as an stable multivibrator. This circuit is both the state of the circuit are a stable state, right? So it continuously oscillating the signals. So let's say this is the input of first inverter, and this is the output of first inverter. Let's say input of first inverter, let me call V1, input of second inverter, let's we call V2, input of third inverter, let me call V3, and the output of third inverter, it is given at the input of first inverter, right? So this is work as an oscillator. How it work as an oscillator? Let's see. Suppose when there is no any stable states, right? So in a any inverter, DC stable unstable point is a VTH. This is the DC unstable points. Let me before that let discuss it's again VTC curve, right? So if you see the VTC, it's have this types of VTC of any inverter. So this point it's it is a highly unstable state. This point is a highly unstable state, right? It cannot stay in this unstable state. It is a VTH voltage switching threshold, VTH voltage. So this point, this is the highly unstable state. This is called a transient region. So transient region is a highly unstable state. If you see the stability of this VTC, it look like this. Stability of this, let me draw again. So stability look like at a logic 0 it's have a highly stable, and at logic 1 it's also have a highly stable. It is unstable, minimum stability at the VTH, at the transient regions, right? It cannot stay longer time in a transient region. Even if it's a transient region and slight voltage plus or minus, it either goes to the logic 0 or a logic 1 depending on the that external noise voltage. If the external noise voltage is positive, it goes toward the logic 0. If the external noise voltage is slightly negative, it goes into the logic 1. Output goes into the logic 1. So VTH is the DC point in a inverter, which is the highly unstable points. So this is the stability, and stability and energy, it's inversely proportional, right? So at a highly unstable state have a higher energy, highly unstable state have a higher energy. So if we see in stability and energy, it is a inversely proportional. Stable point have a minimum energy, and unstable points have a maximum energy, right? So if it's have a maximum energy, so it required very less external force to goes into the one of the unstable state, which is either logic 0 or logic 1. So let me plot T versus output voltage of different inverter, right? So here let's say suppose the output of inverter 1, output of inverter 1, let's say output of inverter 1 is goes 0 to 1, right? So when output of inverter 1, this is the V50 percentage, this is the maximum output, and let me assume it is a CMOS inverter. So maximum output is VOH, it is equal to VDD, and let's say VOL is equal to 0. Let me draw for the CMOS inverter, right? So when this is for the V1. So V1 cross the V50 percentage. V1 cross the V50 percentage. So it is goes into the logic 1. So V2 is inverted of the V1 because in between have the inverter, right? So V2 start goes to low. So when V1 goes to 1, V2 start goes to low. So V2 is initially high, and when it's crossed the 50 percentage, V2 start goes to low, right? So when V2 is cross the V50 percentage, V2 is goes to low and V50 percentage. At that time, V3 start goes to high, right? So it is push the V3 to go to high. So it push the V3 go to high. Now when V3 is go to high, it will force the V1. It is force the V1 to go to low. So V1 is high. Now when V3 is cross the V50 percentage, V1 start goes to low. Right. And when V1 start goes to low, it again force V2 start goes to high. So from this, here it is an low. This is V3 and V1. This is V2. So it forced the V2 to start goes to high. Okay. Now V2 goes to high. It will force the V3 goes to low. And again it forces the V1 when V2 goes to low. This is V2 and this is V1. It will force the V1 to goes to high. Okay. So if we see the one complete cycle of any output voltage of any inverter, right? So let me see about the V1. So this is waveform for V1. Let me draw with different colors. You get idea. So this is our V1. Right. So one complete cycle of V1 is from this point to this point. This is one complete cycle of V1. One complete cycle of V1. So this is the oscillated signal of this ring oscillator. And let me see the what is the oscillated signal frequency. Means what is the time period of oscillated signals. So this is nothing but the delay of high to low of V2. So this indicates the delay of high to low of V2. So it is 2. And this is called a delay of from this it is high to low here. So this point it is called a delay of low to high of 3. So this is the delay of low to high of 3. And here this is again the high to low of a V1. So this is the high to low of a V1. Now this delay it is this point. So it is nothing but the V2. So it is a low to high of V2. Low to high of V2. So it is tau p LH of 2. And this between these 2 points it is a high to low of V3. So it is tau p HL3. And this delay it is again the low to high of V1. So low to high of V1. So if we see this total, it is a total delay. Total delay can define as propagation delay times of high to low of 1 plus propagation delay times of low to high 1 plus propagation delay times of high to low 2 plus propagation delay times of low to high 2 plus propagation delay times of high to low 3 plus propagation delay times of low to high 3. Suppose we have designed an inverter in which it is a symmetrical inverter in which it's have the propagation delay times of high to low and the low to high it's equal, and all the inverter have the equal propagation delay times. Then we can say that propagation delay times it is 6 times of propagation delay times, 6 times of tau p, right, where tau p it is equal to tau p LH, it is equal to tau p HL, and it is for all the inverter have the equal rise and rise to low and low to high propagation delay times. So we can say the generated frequency, clock of generated signal frequency, it is a 1 upon 6 into the propagation delay times, right. So we can be more generalized is here we have connected the 3 number of inverters, so we can write 3 we can write it is a n which is number of inverter into tau into p, right. So this is the frequency generated, it is a 2 tau p of n, 2n tau p, right. So this is the generated frequency of a ring oscillator. Now it now depend on our requirements. So if you want a required of 1 gigahertz clock frequency, we have to connect that number of inverter are in a cascade. If we know the each inverter the propagation delay times, right, and then we connect that number of inverter are in cascade, it will work as an oscillator and it generate the our desired frequency clock of a desired frequency, and it is an inbuilt oscillator, right. It not required any external component, we can fabricate all the inverter inside the chip. So this is the inbuilt oscillator, we can utilize that propagation delay times for the to generate the stable oscillator, and we can this theory it is called a ring oscillator, like this circuit it is called a ring oscillator. So ring oscillator is widely used for any inbuilt clock generator circuit in a digital design, right, which reduce the area requirements because it is in totally inbuilt. Now only one disadvantage of ring oscillator, it's have the process dependent, or it is a PVT variation, it's have the PVT variation. PVT variation means process voltage and temperature variation. This have the effects on the generated frequency because the propagation delay times which is dependence on the PVT. It will depend on the PVT. Process means which process is used to fabricate. It is used for 180 nanometer to fabricate the IC, or the 65 nanometer for the fabricate the IC. Different process have some slight variation. The process variation. Process variation means suppose we have fabricating IC with a 180 nanometer, then the length of between the two n plus is 180 nanometer. But when we are physically fabricate it, and due to the mechanical error, or the not setting exactly the 180 nanometer the width, so due to that some slightly have variation, it's like a 175 nanometer or 185 nanometer. So due to that variation, it's have the variation in propagation delay times. So this is called a process variation. Now what about the voltage variation? So voltage variation is supply, if the supply voltage we have supplied it is a VDD, right, but it will not actually get the VDD whatever we have supplied inside to each and every block. It has some the resistance drop, right. So inside the chip, suppose here we have supplied a 3.3 volt as a our VCC to this block, to this block, and to this block. We want to supply to all the block inside the IC, a VCC supply, right. VCC supply we want to give to the all the block. Now all the block will not get exactly a 3.3 volt because this conducting line it's have some resistance. This conducting line it's have some resistance. This is the called a interconnect resistance. Now due to that resistance it's have some voltage drop. Due to that resistance it have some voltage drop, right. So all the device inside the chip will get the different supply voltage, and it produce the different propagation delay. It has some slight variation in propagation delay. So it is called a voltage variation, that, and temperature variation. And we know the semiconductor material is a temperature dependent material, or a negative temperature coefficient material. So as the temperature increase, the resistivity of semiconductor material will decrease, and it will make the effect on the ID current, and it will make the effect of the propagation delay times, right? So this PVT variation will make the frequency change in an inbuilt oscillator. That is not a desired things, right? It is due to the PVT variation. So this is one of the disadvantage of inbuilt oscillator. Advantage of inbuilt oscillator is required the less space, not required any external device or component for the oscillation. It is totally inbuilt inside the chip. So it can be possible to build a SoC, means the system on a single chip. It is possible, right? Everything inside the chip, it is possible if we use the ring oscillator. So it has an advantage, and as well as this design has some disadvantage, right? Now next topic is the estimation of the resistance estimation, resistance estimations, right? So as we already derived the node capacitance. So node capacitance depend on the physical structure of a MOSFET, and it have a oxide and junction related capacitance. But if you want to find out the propagation delay times, so propagation delay times, it not only depend the load capacitance, it also depend the R into C. So it also depend the resistance of the network, right? So that resistance is this resistance is due to the resistance of the interconnect, resistance of the routing wire, which is used to connect the different component inside the chip. It is called a routing, or it is called a metal routing, or also it is called a interconnect. So interconnect, normally it is a conducting material, but the conducting material is also has some conductive some resistivity. It not resistivity not tends to zero of any material. So different material have the different resistivity. So we can estimate the equivalent resistance from the resistivity of the device, right? So equivalent resistance of any device, it can be estimated using resistivity of the device. So we can say any wire resistance, it is equal to rho, which is the resistivity of a material, a L into A is the area of this cross sectional metal layer, right? So resistivity into L, and area can divide into the width into the thickness, and resistivity divided by the thickness into L divided by W, where L is the length of the interconnect and W is the width of that metal layer, and T is the thickness of the metal layer. And this ratio, the resistivity divided by thickness, it is called a seat resistance of any wire into L divided by uh, W. So total wire resistance, it can define as R seat resistance multiplied by L divided by W, right? So L divided by W normally measure in terms of the square at its square, what is the equivalent resistance. So suppose this is a wire, right? So this is the wire, some I have not proper drawing it. So this is the length of the wire, and it has some thickness, it is width of the wire, and have some thickness in the T, thickness of the. Now as per the width, if we divide this wire into the square of it, suppose width is W, so we'll divide the L into the W size, each W size. So it's have this 4 square wire, it's have a 4 square, each have the square, and such equal 4 square. So when we keep the length, and we have to divide this length into the W, so we'll get the square, we'll get the square number of square. So R wire, normally equivalent resistance of wire, it is the R sheet resistance. Sheet resistance depend on the resistivity of material multiply by the number of square of length in terms of number of square, right? Length in terms of number of square, right? So suppose the W is 1 micrometer and length is 5 micrometer, then we can say the number of square are 5. 4 micrometer, then we can say number of L divided by W, it is equal to 4. So here number of square is equal to 4. And for each material, per square resistivity is given. For each material, what is the resistance of per square, right? So suppose for the polysilicon layer or for the polysilicon material, it is about 2 to 4 ohm per square. Polysilicon material have a resistivity 2 to 4 ohm per square. So it is given in terms of per square. So we have to convert the length upon W into the numbers of square, right? So from this we can find the what is the total equivalent resistance forms by any interconnected length in an interconnected wire. So once we'll get the equivalent resistance and the equivalent capacitance between the node and the output, then we can find its. So once we get the equivalent distance between the two node, suppose here the input node to the output node, and between the input to output we want to find out a propagation delay. So if we know the total equivalent resistance between the input node and output node, suppose it's have the R value of equivalent resistance between the input and output node, and between the output node and ground it's have suppose C value of capacitance is forms. C value of capacitance is forms. Now if you want to find out a propagation delay times of tau p HL, let's say we applied as an input as a square pulse. Let me applied as input is square pulse at t0 times. Let's say apply input is square pulse at a t0 times. So at output, if you see in the circuit, capacitor is slowly charging and we'll get these types of output. This is not an inverter. We remember what the waveform we are drawing, it is not for the inverter. So here input is goes high, so output is goes low. It is simply a RC network which we have find from for any interconnect. We want to find out the propagation delay, right? So this output it goes slowly high, and we want to find out the time when it is reached the V50 percentage. So this time it is a propagation delay times of tau p LH. So this time from 0 to this start from 0 to this. So this time T1 it is the propagation delay times of low to high. Sorry, propagation delay times of low to high. Similarly, when we give the input is high to low, then output is also start decreasing, and we'll get the propagation delay times from 50 percentage this let's say T2 to T3. So tau p HL it is T3 minus T2. So from this we can find the approx the propagation delay times of any RC network. So let me find, we know for the RC network voltage across capacitor, that can be also derived using our that using the network theory problem also we can derive here. Let me derive this using network theory. So here we have a supply in the pulse 5 volt. Let's say it is a 5 volt or a VDD. Let's say we supply VDD or V voltage. So if let me apply the KVL, so V is equal to R into I of t plus 1 upon c integrations of I of t dt. So from this, let me do the differentiation with respect to t. So 0 is equal to r di of t divided by dt plus I of t divided by c. So here we'll get the di of t divided by dt. Let me divide by r. So I of t divided by r into c is equal to 0. So using the p and q method, here the p is equal to 1 upon rc and q is equal to 0. So solution is e raised to minus pt into integration of q. So q is 0. So solution of this is a homogeneous differential equation. So solution is k e raised to minus pt. So k e raised to t divided by rc. So this is the I of t. Now to find out the k, we can find using the initial condition. So let me have to substitute at t is equal to 0. So let me substitute at t is equal to 0 in the above equation. So we'll get the I of 0 plus is equal to k e raised to 0. So it is equal to k. Now to find out the I of 0 plus, we have to draw the equivalent circuit at t is equal to 0 plus time. So t is equal to 0 plus time, in the capacitor is uncharged capacitor, and uncharged capacitor work as a short circuit. So capacitor work as a short circuit. We have supplied the V voltage to the R network, and whatever the current in this loop, it is I0 plus. So I0 plus current, it is equal to V divided by R. So from this we'll get the I of t, it is equal to V divided by R, which is equal to K into e raised to minus t divided by RC. Now from the I of t, now we can find, our interest is to find out the voltage across capacitor. So voltage across capacitor is total voltage minus voltage across resistance. So total voltage is V minus voltage across resistance. So it is an V divided by R into e raised to minus t divided by RC. Right. So here RR cancel. So it is equal to V 1 minus e raised to minus t divided by RC. It is equal to Vc of t. Now our interest is to find out the time at which the output voltage it goes the 50%. So we have to find, when we put t is equal to tau p HL or tau p LH, it is the time tau p HL or tau p LH, it is the time when output goes into the 50%, means the Vc of t at that time when t is equal to tau p HL, at that time it is equal to VDD by 2 or supply voltage by 2. So let me substitute t is equal to tau p HL, and that voltage across capacitor is equal to V by 2, V 50%, it is V by 2. So V by 2 is equal to V 1 minus e raised to minus tau p HL divided by RC, right? So we cancel. So we'll get the 1 upon 2 is equal to 1 minus e raised to minus tau p HL by RC. So here if we take this E minus tau p HL by RC is equal to 1 minus 1 upon 2, it is equal to 1 upon 2. Now let's take the invert. So it is a plus tau p HL by RC is equal to 2. So let's take the natural logarithm of both the side. Let's take the natural logarithm on the both the side. So here tau p HL by RC is equal to natural logarithm of 2. Right, so tau p HL, it is equal to RC into natural logarithm of 2. Now natural logarithm of 2 is 0.69 into RC. So propagation delay times of high to low in a single RC network, it is approx 0.69 of RC or low to high. This is here which we have derived, it low to high propagation delay times. Right. So the propagation delay times of low to high in any RC network, it is approx the 0.69 into the RC, approx 0.69 into the RC. Another method to find out a propagation delay times between the two nodes, it is an Elmore delay analysis method. So this is one method using the RC network, the charging equation of capacitor. Another method to approximate the propagation delay between the two nodes, it is an Elmore delay analysis method. Elmore delay estimation method, using Elmore delay estimation methods. Now Elmore delay estimation method says it is applicable for some particular network, so it has some assumptions. So what are the assumptions when we want to find out approx the propagation delay in any network using the Elmore delay analysis? Assumptions are, first assumption is there are no register in a loop. There are no register connected in a loop. Register connect in a loop, right? Second assumption when we use the Elmore delay analysis is all capacitors are connected between node and ground. All the capacitors are connected between any node and the ground. And third assumption in this Elmore delay analysis is there is only one input node in network. There is having only one input node in a network. So this method we can apply to a network which have the resistors between the two nodes and it not connected in a loop, and the capacitor is between the any node and ground, and it's have only the one input node from which we want to find out a propagation delay. So we can apply this method to such network, right? So what is the propagation delay times using this method? It can find as tau di, where I the tau d the propagation delay and I the from input to the ith node. Input to the ith node, what is the propagation delay? So it can be find as summation of j is equal to 1 to n, where capital N is the total number of node in a network, C of j into the summation of k belongs to Pij, where Pij it is a common path from input to node I and input to node j. So Pij is a Pi intersect of Pj. So P is the path and Pi it is the path from input to node I, and Pj it is the path to reach from input to node j. So Pij it is the intersect path to reach from input to node I and input to node j, means is the common path between the input to node I and input to node j, R of k. So this is the equations to find out a propagation delay times of a network which can satisfy the above assumptions. So we can use this Elmore delay analysis equation to directly find out the propagation delay of input to any node I, right? So let's take an example for this and we'll find the propagation delay. So let me draw one network and then we'll apply a Elmore delay analysis to find out a propagation delay. So let's say this is our input node and it should have only single input node. So it's, let's say this has one single input node. Let's say input node and V1, between the V1 node and input node have the R1 resistance. Between the V1 node and the ground have a C1 capacitor, and between V1 and V2 let's say R2 resistance, and between the V2 and ground, let's say have the C2 capacitor. Let's say between the V2 and V3 have a R3 resistance, and between the V3 and the ground have the C3 capacitor. Let's say between the V2 and V4 have a R4 resistance between V2 and V4, and between the V2, V4 and ground have the C4 capacitor. And another branch between V1 and V5 have a R5 resistance, and between V5 and ground have a C5 capacitor. Between V5 and V6 have a R6 resistance, and capacitor is between the V6 and ground. And between let's say R7, C7, and let's say here one more between R8 and let's say it's a V8 and ground. See, so let's say this is the one network, and our interest is to find out the propagation delay times of input node to the node 7. Our interest is to find out a propagation delay path of input node to the node 7. This is the questions. So we want to find out the tau D7. I is 7. Right? Now first of all we have to check this network. Right? This network is satisfied all the assumption of Elmore delay analysis or not. So here we can see all the resistor are connected between two node, capacitor are connected node and the ground, and there is no any loop inside this network, and have a only one single node as input. So this network is satisfying all the assumptions of Elmore delay analysis. So we can use the equation of Elmore delay analysis to find out the delay of input to any node. So let's find the delay of input to node 7 of this network, right? So tau D7, right? So tau D7 it can write as summation of J is equal to 1 to here how many total number of node 8. So 1 to 8, capital N is 8, C of J multiplying the summation of K belongs to Pij, where Pij indicate the common path from input to node I and input to node J, right? It is indicate the Pij, it multiply R of K. So this is the equation to find out the propagation delay times of input to node 7. So let me substitute the value and let me simplify it, right? So here we can see first of all let me substitute J is equal to 1, right? So tau D7, where substitute the J is equal to 1, then it is C1. Now when the J is equal to 1, then what is the I? I is the 7. I is our 7 node. So what is the value of K? So it is P7J. J is 1. So how to find the P7J where J is 1? So P7J is a P7 intersect of Pj, right? So P7 it is the path from input to node 7. So this is the path to reach the input to node 7, and path is R1, R5, R6 and R7. So this is the path to reach the input to node 7, R1, R5, R6 and R7 intersect with the path of Pj. Now what is the value of J? First value of J is 1. So it is the path of input to node 1 and it is only R1. So what is the intersect answer? Intersect answer is only the R1. R1 is only the common, right? So we have to multiply C1 with the summation of K, where K is equal to only 1. So it is a R1. So we have to multiply C1 with the R1. Plus, let me put the J value is equal to 2, right? So J is equal to 2. So it is a C of 2. Now C of 2 multiplied is path from input to node 7 and path from input to node 2. J is equal to 2, so it is P of J, so it is a path of input to node 2. So in between P7 intersect with P of 2, common is only again the R1. So we have to multiply C2 with only the R1. Plus, let me substitute J is equal to 3, right? So J is equal to 3, so it is C3. Multiply the resistance, addition of resistance, the common path between the input to node 7 and input to node 3, right? So input to node 7, so this is the path, and for input to node 3, this is the path. So common is only the R1. So this C3 is multiplied with only R1. Then J is equal to 4, so C4. So to reach the input to node 4 and input to node 7, common are only the R1. So again the C4 is multiplied with a R1 only. Then the C5, to reach the input to node 5 and to input to node 5 and input to node 7. So common are R1 and R5, and here we have to do the summation. So we have to sum the common resistance which is comes in a path of input to node 7 and input to node 5, and it is R1 and R5. So C5 is multiplied with R1 plus R5. Then plus C6. So to reach the input to node 7 and input to node 6, common resistance are R1, R5 and R6. So we have to do the multiplication addition of R1 plus R5 plus R6 multiply with C7, C6. Now C7, so common is input to C7 and input to C7, 7 node. So all the rest are common R1, R5, R6 and R7. So C7 is multiplied with plus C8. Now to reach the input to node 8, so this is the path for input to node 8 and this is the path for the input to node 7. So common is only the R1. So C8 it multiply with only the R1. So this is the propagation delay times in terms of the resistance and capacitance value for the above network to reach the input to node 7. So this is the approx the propagation delay times to reach the input to node 7 using the Elmore delay analysis, right? Now let me apply this Elmore delay analysis for the our RC network, which we have already derived the propagation delay times using the in a RC network. Now let me divide this network into the n number of parts. So this is nothing but the equivalent of a single wire, which is represented as equivalent circuit is equivalent total equivalent resistance of the wire. It is represented as R, and total capacitance between this wire and ground. Wire and ground, all the capacitor are addition. Wire and ground form the capacitor, because wire is conducting path between the ground, so it forms the capacitor. So it is represented as parallel capacitance is addition, so it is represented as a simple R network. But instead of that, if we divide this wire into the end part, if we divide this wire into the end part, so it's have the n number of resistance and n number of capacitor. So to derive the more accurate propagation delay times, we have to divide any network into the n number of part. Right? So it is divided into the n part. Here it is in our input node and this is the output node. And our interest is to find out the propagation delay time. So this is V1, V2, V3 and here it is in Vn. So let here for this network we want to find out the tau dn, propagation delay time input to output, right? So we can apply it here. Let we see this network is satisfied the all assumptions of Elmore delay analysis. Yes, it is satisfied the all the assumption of the Elmore delay analysis. So we can use the equation of Elmore delay analysis. J is equal to 1 to n C of j summation of k belongs to P of I j. I is equal to n P n j R of k, right? So here Pij, it is the addition of the resistance in every case. So it can be more simplified. If for this network, for particular this network, if we are finding Pn1, then common resistance R1. If we are finding Pn2, the common resistance are R1 plus R2. If you find for Pn3, then common, all the three are common. For this ladder RC network P and 4, then all the 4 are common, right? So for particular this network, this summation is more simplified, is it can convert to NCR. So this tau dn it is a summation of J is equal to 1 to n C of n and summation of K is equal to 1 to J R of divided by n, right? And this series can more simplified as C of n R of n into n plus 1 divided by 2, right? So it is n cancel, so it is n plus 1 divided by n into RC divided by 2, right? Tau d of n. Now if we divide this part into the tends to infinite, very large, then we can say n plus 1 is equivalent to n, right? So we can be equate this, it is equal to 0.5 RC. And if we already derived for the RC network, and in that case if we substitute single wire as a single resistance and single capacitor, then propagation delay times here it is approximate 0.69 of RC. But here if we divide this wire into the n number of part, as many number of part, then we'll get the more accurate the propagation delay times, right? It is tends to be a 0.5 into RC. So as we increase the number of n by division factors in any interconnect, and each interconnect represent its equivalent resistance and the capacitors, and then we'll find the propagation delay. It will give us the more accurate the propagation delay as the practical value, right? So this about the propagation delay times and how to find the propagation delay times. So here we have discussed the two methods to find the propagation delay times. One is simple RC network, from which we can find the propagation delay times of by finding the charging equation of the capacitors, and we can find the propagation delay. Another method is the Elmore delay analysis, and we have discussed what are the assumptions to apply the Elmore delay equations, and what is the Elmore delay equation, and how to find the estimate the propagation delay for input to any node using the Elmore delay equations, correct? Now last theory from the this chapter, it is a derivation of switching power dissipations. We know in a CMOS inverter static power dissipation is tends to be 0. So there are two types of power dissipation. Power dissipation, normally there are two types. One is the static power dissipation. Static power dissipation means when our input is constant, when our input is either logic 0 or in a logic 1, and at that time whatever the power dissipation, it is called a static power dissipation. And when our input is changed from the 0 to 1 and 1 to 0, and in this transient region whatever the power dissipation, it is called a dynamic power dissipation, or is also called as switching power dissipation. So whenever input change from 0 to 1 or 1 to 0, in this transient region, whatever the power dissipated by any circuit, it is called a dynamic power dissipation or the switching power dissipation. And third power dissipation is due to the leakage. Due to the leakage, it is normally very tends to be 0 due to the leakage. Leakage means suppose in a threshold current and like that, right? Suppose if you are not this have some leakage, suppose this have a drain which we are connected higher potential, and this bulk is grounded, and here it is form a inverse diode. So but still inverse diode have some reverse bias current, right? So it continuously dissipate the power. So the such types of leakage current, and in this here have a sub threshold current. Even the gate voltage is less than the threshold, and it's conduct the drain and source, so it is unnecessary. The source is connected with the ground, so it is dissipating the power. So this all the powers comes into the leakage power, and you will detail study leakage power in a chapter number 3. So our interest is today in a CMOS inverter, static power tends to be a 0 for the CMOS inverter. So CMOS inverter have the dynamic power. So whenever the input signal is switching from the 0 to 1 or 1 to 0, at that time the CMOS is dissipating the power, right? Because when input is switching, at that time both the MOSFET temporary have in a saturation region. When input and output is equal, it is the VTH. At that time both the MOSFET are in a saturation region, and it provides the low conductive path for the VDD to connect to ground, right? Both the MOSFET are in a conducting, so that spike of current is flow from VDD to ground, and it dissipate the power. So as many times we are do the switching, that many times it have the spike of current and it dissipate the power in a CMOS inverter. So later here we'll derive the power dissipation of the dynamic power dissipation, also called a switching power dissipation of CMOS inverter. So we know in a CMOS inverter, PMOS, it is used for the pull-up device, and NMOS, it is a pull-up, pull-down device. Here our input and output, the node capacitor, C load. So this current is the IC current. It is equal to positive of IP and the negative of IN, and here output voltage the V out, output voltage VN. Right. So if we plot, if we give the inputs and output, and we plot the IC current, right? Let's say our input, this dotted line indicate our input, right? At that time when input is goes too high, at that time output start goes too low, and when output input is goes too low, output start goes too high for the CMOS inverter. So this is our input, and here it is an output, and here it is input output voltage, input output voltage. Now when output is goes to low, at that time NMOS is conduct and it dissipate the power. So if we plot the IC, it is the negative of NMOS and positive of PMOS. So IC, it is nothing but the IP minus IN. So when output goes to low, at that time IP is equal to 0. So it's have the IC current, and IC is the negative of IC. So here it's have a spike of negative spike of current, negative of IC current, because IC is the minus of IN. Now whenever output goes too high, at that time PMOS is conduct and it's pull up the output, and at that time IN is equal to 0. So IC is equal to positive of IP. So we'll get the positive spike of current. Right. So we'll get the IC current, which is negative and positive spike, and let's say the time period it is 0. Let's say here it is in t by 2, and let's say here it is in t, right? T time period, because we require time period because we want to derive the power dissipation. So we know in a power dissipation, dynamic power dissipation or a power dissipation, the equation is 1 upon t to find out power of any signal. So it is 1 upon t integration for the one time period. Power is voltage into current. So voltage is the V out, it is output voltage, and the current it is the IC current, which is the IC into dt. Right? So V of t into I of t into dt, that is the power. And if you do the integration of any signal for one time period and divide by one time period, we'll get the power of that signal. So here we want to find out the power dissipation. So let's substitute. So let me divide this integration 0 to t in a two part, 0 to t by 2 and the t by 2 to t. So power dissipation, it is 1 upon time period. Let divide this integration 0 to t by 2 v of t into I of t dt, and let me t by 2 to t v of t into I of t into dt. Right. Now let's see what is the voltage for the 0 to t by 2. What is the voltage for 0 to t by 2? Right. So when it is 0 to t by 2, voltage is going V out to 0. Voltage is going the V out to 0. In 0 to t by 2, output voltage start going to 0. So at that time equivalent circuit is P MOSFET, it is in a 0 to t by 2. P MOSFET, it is in a cutoff. N MOSFET, it is conducting. NMOS, it is a conducting, and it is discharging the C load capacitor. So output voltage is V out minus 0. So V of t, it is equal to V out, and the IC, it is C dV by dt. So CL dV out divided by dt, and it is a negative because IC current and IN current, it is in opposite. So I is equal to minus CL into dV out divided by dt. So for the 0 to t by 2, 0 to t by 2, 1 upon t integration of 0 to t by 2, V of t is a V out and I of t is a minus C load into dV out divided by dt, right, into dt, plus t by 2 to t. Now for the t by 2 to t, if you see at that time the P MOSFET is conduct. For t by 2 to t, let's see here. So at that time P MOSFET is conduct, and it is a pull up the output node capacitor, and N MOSFET, it is in a cutoff. So whatever the current of, it is in positive of IC, and voltage is VDD minus V out, right? So in this t by 2 to t, the voltage is VDD minus V out, and current, it is a positive C load into dV by dV out divided by dt. So we'll get the multiplication here, C load into dV out divided by dt, right, into dt. So here the dt cancel. So now this integration with respect to dV out. So let me more simplified it. So power dissipation, it is 1 upon t integration of 0 to t by 2 V out into minus C load into dV out plus T by 2 to T VDD minus V out into plus C load into dV out. Okay. Now differentiation of V out in respect to dV out, it is V out square by 2, and the differentiation of these terms is, so P dynamic, it is 1 upon T. Here the V out square by 2, and lower limit is 0 and upper limit is T by 2, and differentiation of this term is VDD differentiation is Vx and V out square by 2. So, and here it is multiplied by minus C load. Minus C load is multiplied. So here 1 upon T plus C load VDD into V out minus V out square by 2. Upper limit is T and lower limit is T by 2. T by 2. Now let's substitute the upper and lower limit. At that time, what is the V out value? We have to see. So here it is in minus C load. Now at the T by 2, what is the V out value? Let's see in the equation in waveforms. So at a T by 2, V out value is 0. Right? So we'll substitute the 0, and at the 0, V out value is equal to VDD. At V out value is VDD. So at the 0, we'll substitute V out value is VDD, and at T by 2 it is 0. Minus minus plus, so CL into VDD square by 2 plus 1 upon T into CL. At the T, V out is VDD, so it is a VDD square minus VDD square by 2 minus, at T by 2 V out is 0, so minus 0 terms, right? So now from this we can see it is 1 upon T, and in bracket C load VDD by VDD square by 2. Here it is C load square by 2 minus C load VDD square by 2. So this positive and this negative is cancelled, right? So we'll get CL VDD square, CL VDD square. So P dynamic it is 1 upon T CL into VDD square. So equation of dynamic power dissipation, it is 1 upon T, you can write as F C load into VDD square. So dynamic power dissipation of an or a switching power dissipation of a C load inverter, it's F into C load into VDD square. So it is directly proportional to the frequency of input signal. As we switching in a 1 second more times, it will dissipate the more power. Also directly depend on the C load capacitor and the VDD square, right? So it is directly proportional to the VDD square. So this is derivation of switching power dissipations.